Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second discussion of Grand Conspiracy, which is the fifth book in the Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wurts. We are reading this book approximately 120 pages each fortnight, and Jared has taken over for Chris with the swiping the book across the across the screen. With me, I have the usual wonderful people I get to discuss these books with. Chris, would you like to start us off with
Yes, my name's
introductions?
Chris Moen. I'm sometimes YouTuber, and to be honest, I think I've seen some of the people on this call much more than I've seen my family this weekend. And I'm very glad to be doing so. Two people.
Hi, I'm Chibi Po, the resident expert on the series, and lurker on page tuning.
I'm Jared. I run the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and I also am one of those people that Chris has spent way too much time with this weekend. And I also do haunt the page doing forums as well. Rob.
Sure. Hi, I'm Robin. I have a YouTube called Bookends and Biscuits, and also on the page doing forums as well. So yeah.
Nice. So, what did everyone think of those chapters? We started with more fellowship activity. Could you all tell immediately that that was Sethvir? I feel like every time Sethvir's on, like, he's somewhere lurking, and we, the readers, are meant to know that it's Sethvir. We are told that he's wearing his red robes and whatnot. But this time there was a bit of misdirection there with his mottled coat that he was wearing on top of the red um, robe. So I was guessing for a while about whether or not that's Sethvir. What was that? How you guys read it, or did you know immediately?
I knew it was one of them.
Yeah.
'Cause
That's the
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to wardrobes pretty well that well, but I knew it was one of those guys, and then so the reveal. His reveal wasn't too surprising,
Mm-hmm.
especially with some of the stuff he was saying to the healers and stuff like that.
Mm.
Plus, if I remember right, when he comes out of the Grimoire, talking to Luhane in the last chapter, in chapter 3, he specifically does say he's going to go pay a visit on Avenor and whatnot. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was helping the healer, right? Overlook those guys who were,
afflicted,
out for the count because of the Grimward. I thought it was very interesting that the healer, he was kind of like he had to worry about bragging about his skill because he didn't want to be accused of any witchery if his skill was too good or something like that. And I thought that was kind of an interesting topic that him and the unknown Sethvir were talking about there. So that was very cool about that chapter because it just give you a little insight into the psyche of the populace and what they're thinking about.
And well, I forget. Oh, there was this. There was something that what you just said reminded me of about being accused of witchery. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, they had the whole like this mock trial where they to determine witchery. It's like if they don't heal anybody, they're a fraud. But if they do, they're a witch. It's like, and that it's just like that's a lose-lose for whoever's on trial, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of hilarious.
And it's interesting that he's gotten more public with this thing about hiring talent. That was the word that they kept using for his side, like recruiting. It's you can be a sorcerer or a witch as long as you work for me. Everyone else will be burned as evil, and so yeah, he's waging a war on sorcery, but He's all and that's fine. Like people are okay with that hypocrisy, it seems like, which was very interesting to read.
I think I might be skipping ahead here, but throughout these two chapters, that was very much one of the points of discussion, because you had the trial at the beginning, and then you had a discussion by Lysa later. Not by Lysa, but one of the people in the towns, when you're talking about getting rid of all the head witches and how you're going to have a lot of basically whores that have a lot of babies because they're not able to get rid of them because of the head witches. And then it was also there was a discussion brought up, I know we talked last time when I said about I wasn't sure how the Crostini would kind of deal with that, because obviously it's their whole spiel, and it was explained kind of in, or I guess not explained, but pointed to in these two chapters that actually they didn't mind because they said that only they should be practicing magic anyway, which I thought was kind of a nice explanation as well from that point. But yeah, that was a bit of a theme for these three chapters, was about this kind of capturing magic for one side or not allowing it for the other sort of thing.
Yeah. And is it interesting that the Koreani think that they are safe from Lysair? They like, yeah, it's fine as long as we're the only ones practicing, but he can turn on you at any moment. All you have to do is do something that he interprets as being in support of darkness. Doesn't even have to be actually in support of. Chris, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Lysier, it's not even as if he's trying to hide it. Like, even at the end of chapter 6, he does one of the most overt displays of magic that you can possibly have, even to the point that some people know to turn away because it's common. Like, it's no big secret or anything. It's just that he's just very blasé about it, whereas other people are very wondering.
That's not magic, though. That's divine, isn't it? That's
No.
because he's a god, so he's allowed.
Finally granted power is different.
The exalted
than magic.
Yeah.
Come on
exalted.
now, Chris.
Indeed, sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but it's also tragic in a way, because it's, he can do anything he needs to explain away whatever he has to, and it's like top of 130. Somebody was saying that the whole a tree was he was indignant about a tree being able to bind 3 whole companies of fighting men into a lethal coma. What an asinine flight of fantasy. So it like, people don't even believe what's actually going on in the world, and so how are they going to interpret what to believe from sorcerers or Lysair or Arathon or anybody in the world, whoever's in charge? How are they going to interpret all that? Because it just seems like there's just all this information that's not that's parsed out as the people in power want it parsed out, and so the regular populace is really in a bind as far as that stuff goes.
Yeah, far easier to just be like, oh yeah, this is just devil work.
Yep.
Than to actually be like, well, here's what's happening. Yes, I did like just Sethvir just strolls in, and then when they realize that he's a actual sorcerer, and they get all their guardsmen out, and he's just like, "Are you stupid?" He's just completely dismissive of them. He's like, "You cannot stop me with your bared swords."
Yeah, there was a line somewhere. Are you foolish?
Yes.
I had to underline that. Don't tell Steve I write in my books.
What I think I really like about this book as it starts out is, they've been fairly low key. It's like we had them doing stuff against the, Mistwraith, coordinating Arathon and Lysair in book 1. But the sorcerers have mostly been low key. It's like they're doing stuff, but we never see them doing it really. And then this book, they just open up with like, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna wake the trees up and they're gonna put you all to sleep, and deal with it. And they're just throwing their weight around left and right. And I was like, wow, this is wild.
Yeah, the difference between the Alliance will carry the light forward by the grace of divine calling, and they will see an end to sorcery and oppression. So they equate sorcery with oppression, and Lysair's light powers are divine calling. So there's that's the distinction that they're making. Even though we all know it's all magic, but
wasn't it? But Seth Beard said when they were talking about the trees that he says, "Well, why shouldn't the trees be just allowed to defend themselves in a way that is befitting? Should they just stand aside and be burned down or whatever?" You know, he says we didn't do anything other than kind of give them the ability to stand up for themselves, essentially, rather than it being just magic, which I thought was just. I mean, that whole sequence I thought was very comical. You know, there was a very light-hearted kind of fun to it, as Seth Beer's just kind of dismissive of everybody and the way that Seth Beer is. Like I had got a lot of a smile on my face through most of that chapter.
yeah, it was fun.
More smiles. There's a lot of lightheartedness in this one.
Yeah.
You could tell from the quiet competence of the old man who showed up that it had to be a fellowship sorcerer. And then from there on, it's like just waiting for something fun to happen. And then Lysa showed up, of course. There was something interesting here. I forget the details, but the no a lot of the misfortune that's befallen them at the moment, right? Like the soldiers in the warehouses instead of the trade goods like they're supposed to be, and so on and so forth. That's all directly due to Lysair's actions or the people in power, their actions, but everybody's still buying this uh, story that it's all because of the spinner of darkness, that whatever your problems are, it's all resulting from what he did 10 years ago. And people are willing to buy that. That was sad to
It's sad,
read.
but
Yeah.
like with the more recent, the Fellowship, enacted the spells that make all the slave galleys, immediately all the guards, the slaves get, released, whenever they cross in there. So they can't, have their little slave armies. So, they're, all these guys are thinking is like, the evil sorcerers have done this, and, they've lumped Erathon in there too. But, and so there's like, our money's being affected.
No, that's true. But but the reason that they had slaves and then they had all of that curbed was because they said we're going to have slaves be the oarsmen for our ships now. How did they used to run before? That was the fact that their trade stopped was a direct result of decisions taken by people that they follow. But I mean, I'm agreeing that this is what it might look like, but it's sad to read. Yeah.
But if you think about it, even the main battles, because it keeps harking back to the landslide that was caused by Lysair. The burning of the ships was caused by Lysair. Like the only one that I think Arathon takes credit for and doesn't like to take credit for was the massacre of the ships where he's trying to force his hand. Like that's the only one that Arathon is truly probably directly responsible for. Every time, anything else has been him tricking Lysair into killing his own troops or whatever, but then it's always blamed on Arathon because Lysair doesn't take that thing. So all the way through, it's kind of been a very similar. Yeah, actually, this has happened. It's the spinner of darkness. Blah blah blah. So yeah, absolutely, it's a complete I don't know, hoodwink or whatever.
Even the power of the Grimward gets blamed on Arathon as well. Yeah, by Evan,
Yeah, he was saying, I witnessed it. He caused it. He wasn't even conscious through most of it, was he? Or
well, I think it's in the aftermath, didn't he? He's seen what happened.
Oh, yeah.
He lost his whole troops, so.
Oh, that's right. He was conscious through at least the beginning, and he came out alive, I think. Yeah, he came out conscious, but he was barely managing to survive himself. He didn't have time to spin shadows for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, next time I twist my ankle, it's all Arathon's fault.
That's true. Well, or maybe it's Alex's fault. What was I? Yeah, and then was there anything else to talk about this section?
What's up with that? This Cerebell guy. He seems to be some new sort of badass. He and he a priest in actual fact here? He's actually like communicating with Lysaea on some level.
Yeah, he's got a mage talent.
Yeah, and he's like a natural
He'll have to
telepath.
communicate.
And
Yeah.
I found that very interesting that that we're getting introduced to this new concept of like a priest for these guys, this Lysaea, and that kind of sets him up to be a religious type figure, and which we've been hinted at that all along here, but now it's starting to happen in right here in reality. And we also get a hint of that with the desert tribes worshiping Arathon later on, and there's that contrast there. And I found that fascinating how this is starting to play into that type of archetype where they're almost treated like demigods or something like that.
No, absolutely. You also have another tie-in there would be when with the marriage ceremony, they don't have the priest of Ath. They use his own priest, which would be which he's just made a new religion and said, yes, this guy can marry us. He's got the power. So again, that's another link into that moving down that way as well. Yeah. People just went with it. They were like, yeah, okay. So does that make it legal? I don't know. Are they really right? So yeah, strange.
Yeah, so that was very interesting development, I thought.
I thought it was interesting as well because we didn't get a lot of information about how that kind of link or connection works. Like, I know he said that he can stand in for him and be his like witness because obviously he can directly get his feedback. But like, is that an open channel the whole time, or does he have to think about it, or can Messiah just look, or are they connected all the time? I was a bit confused about that, but I hope maybe that be in the future explained a bit more.
We'll see.
It's not an open channel all the time. No.
There you go.
Just has to be specifically, triggered. So yeah, like he does it. Seth Fairman comments that he did it while he was standing there. Communicating. With Sarah Bell, communicated with Lysaea.
Oh, so is it more he like just asks him a question, but he can just hear and respond? It's not like okay, thank you.
And he was cool as a cucumber too when Sethia was there. Like the other guy was like freaking out, the commander or whatever, and
Voorhees and
telling him to get him and the guy was just like, he was very like, I got this. We'll deal with this later.
I thought it was funny too because it's like it was because Sethia was just so totally dismissive of them, and they're like, we could do anything given time. I'm like, you realize how easily they just hobbled you, and they didn't even really do anything but wake the trees up. Maybe you might want to rethink that.
Yeah.
And did it seem to be somewhat one way in what how much the priest has access to versus Lysaea having access to what the priest is thinking? Because when he was giving him the massage, he was able to read Lysaea's thoughts about whether there was a line about how they didn't need to rely on social niceties because he could just read Lysaea's mind and see that he wasn't angry or upset. That's not why he stopped communicating. So that was interesting. He has access to Lysaea's thoughts, so he can manipulate the heck out of Lysaea, perhaps. But
I was kind of worried about that too. Is this guy? He says my interested adulation in response to a question by Lysaea or something like that, and I was like, oh, where's this going? And how much is this guy going to get into Lysaea's head? Is he like this world's version of Wormtongue? Like from the Lord of the Rings, talking to King Theoden there. I don't know. And he creeped me out a little bit. I gotta admit,
You got on your head.
he got on my head.
He is a true believer with
Yeah.
capital T, capital B.
Mm. He's also the one.
His god basically.
Mm. He's the one who got Prince Talit killed, right? Princess Talit killed.
Was he the one who gave that order?
I thought
The
it
order
was.
is yes.
Mhm.
I
Okay,
mean, he's the head of the little secret faction and whatnot.
all right.
So when he was in the conversation that Mayan overheard, that was in Fugitive Prince, right? When I think we sort of got the impression the priest was being presumptuous and making decisions on Lysair's behalf, but do you think he was actually communicating with him at the time?
Maybe. Don't know.
I
I
sort of.
don't.
Go
I
ahead,
was
Robin.
just because if he was the one that gave the order for her to die, Lysair does not seem on board with that.
Mhm.
No,
That's true. Right.
So I
doesn't.
don't think that was an order that went through with Lysair.
I was
No,
going to say
but
the same thing.
But the other thing, the conversation that Mayan overheard, that wasn't in regard to Talit, right? It was
Oh yeah.
some political decisions they were making. I forget what it was they were discussing, but yeah, the Talit one, I think he acted completely on his own, and Lysair probably had no idea, but he probably even believes that it's a suicide, right? And does he? Do you think?
Isaiah at this point, as far as is aware, is firmly convinced it's a suicide.
Mm.
Mhm.
Caused by Arthur's meddling.
Of course
Yeah.
it is.
Oh yeah,
As is everything else.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He bears no responsibility. He locked her in a tower, but it was Arathon's fault.
Yes.
Yeah, now that I think of it, in the first 3 chapters, when Lysair is touring the shipyard and Marin shows up to, harass him, I think he remarks about it. Where Marin's like, they say it's a suicide, and Lysair's like, I believe them.
And it's like, no, I don't want to hear more about this. Don't prove me wrong. So, since the shipyard came up, do we want to talk about that a little bit? The Lysair knew all along, the implication that Lysair knew all along that Catrick had was building bad ships that would sink, and he would use this as an excuse to start a war.
So sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, though, Parian and Dakar.
Oh yeah. That was a great scene
Oh,
when Lord Perian walked into that bar, and the way she described that bar, the way from his point of view, and how it all looked in there and stuff, and the how he scoped it out, and how the barkeep was giving him warnings and stuff like that. And it was just, I thought that was just a beautifully written scene.
Right.
And then the sorry state of Dakar when they go up to the room there, and how they got him out of there was hilarious. It's good to see some comedy in that part.
yeah. I think that's my favorite image, or one of my favorite images from the series. Dakar being carried off in whatever dress he was wearing at the time.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was a really
funny. But this was the first time we really got to know Parian through these kind of 3 chapters. And he's a very different character from Mern, obviously. And obviously even Mern talks about that. But the moment or the conversation or the fight, I suppose, probably between Arathon and Parian himself and Parian's people, kind of fall out of that, I suppose.
Yeah, that was very interesting. That the that confrontation between Parian and Arathon in chapter 5 there, it was like these guys are supposed to be allies, and they're almost beating each other up. Like they're forcing wine down Arathon's throat, to to stop him from interfering with Mayern and Catrick, yeah. And I'm like, these guys are allies, and this is how they treat each other, Whereas it was just so compared to like Lysair and how everybody's fawning over him, and we don't like Lysair, but he's got like the best allies. They're all like doing everything for him and stuff. And Arathon's we like, and he's getting the crap beat out of him by his friends. It's just that whole contrast was just really interesting.
Was that whole situation? Because I think it did say this, but I just wanted to double check my understanding. Did they say that that Arathon went stir crazy or whatever because of the curse? Because he was then saying that it's the third time that he's had to be basically knocked unconscious or taken away because that's basically kicked off. Because it seemed really weird that he would be so aggressive if not.
Well, yeah, it does remark that the curse, set off his little, argumentative fight with Perian. Yeah.
It's driving him mad. He refers to this idea that he would just rather kill himself at this stage and be done with it because he can just feel himself sliding into madness. He's not really who he appears to be,
So that confused me a little bit. Was it just that the curse in general is driving him insane, so he behaved out of insanity? Or is it that the curse wants a particular outcome and he's fighting for that outcome? Because he only went insane when Lysair was around because he wanted to kill him. But this trying to stop the ships from being burnt is not going to get him closer to that goal. So it seems that it was just generic madness that he acted out of, not out of any specific target that the curse was making him work towards, which was interesting if that's what it is, or maybe I'm missing something about why that's what the Mistwraith would want.
It's more of a generalized drive to kill Lysair, and if he rushed off to the try to prevent the burning thing, increase the likelihood that he'd run right into him and and get to kill him. And it's I guess you would call it going insane, but it's like for him, since he's aware of it, it's just a steadily creeping loss of any sense of himself, as it slowly overtakes,
I think he's despairing
of personality. And he can feel it happening and he has no way to stop it.
He's despairing his loss of agency. Because he wants to take direct action. He's an action kind of guy. And he can't, because he can't. If he does, then he's thrown into the curse mode. And he even mentions to Dakar that the need to use crippling violence to deny him his willful free choice. When will it end? When I'm blinded or broken or witless? And he said, tell the fellowship, I beg their reprieve, release their blood oath, and give the option to abandon my life if I must. So he's in despair, and it's partly because he can't take any actions that he feels to help any of his allies, really.
Yeah, I think that scene makes a lot more sense now, because it's the running into Lysair. So he wanted to go there so that his allies didn't get the flashback from what was happening. The curse also wanted him to go there because he might run into Lysair. So it was like a double issue there. He couldn't do what he wanted, and the curse was having an effect on him. So that makes a lot more sense about why he was just so incensed about getting there, basically, because it was doublefold.
And he can't actually risk going there now because the curse might take over. Yeah.
Plus, this is another case, I think, happened a lot in these first chapters of this book, where restating what everybody's capabilities are. I mean, we get restated that even though Arathon's lost his mage, powers and mage type, he's still a fearsome hand-to-hand combat, person. He's still very well trained and is dangerous in that regard, regardless of magical ability or not. So I sort of took that away from it as well, as say, don't forget about this.
Yep.
And he's just recovered from a pretty debilitating illness too.
Yeah, and just get his leg broke,
Yeah,
break his leg.
just don't lame him, but break his leg slowly, carefully. Then take care of him until he recovers,
Yeah,
and for the rest of your life.
with friends like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
We get two new guys.
yeah.
Brandon and Talbot.
I just couldn't imagine that. This is for your own good. I'm going to break your leg just like this. Ow.
It just hurts that much more that he agrees when he wakes up that this was the right thing to do.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I like that where he's like, break my leg, and Perion's like, wait, what? You're supposed to surrender, and he's like, I am. Break my leg.
It's like, please, not my hand. Don't hurt my music. That also like tugged at some heartstrings. But
it is a good point about the amount of unconditional allies that Arathon actually has. They're very, very few within the world. Everybody's sort of out for their own endeavor or doing the plan by their own design, like Parion's doing. He's very much got an idea of how this should progress, and he's in charge rather than Arathon. Like the only unconditional allies he has really is Jarrett. Cool was one, he's dead now. Bjark and Pheland, although wasn't there some dissension from Pheland as well, but she wanted to do her own thing as well. So like there aren't very many.
But they all don't do what he says. They all fight him on his decisions, which Lysa is severely lacking. He has their loyalty without question, but they'll not just do what he says without making sure that they also agree it's the right thing to do, which is so important. And which like and that's interesting also because who was it? Was it the priest is telling Lysair that during that creepy massage that they picked the princess that he's going to marry, because they're not expecting her to talk back or do anything, just like bear some children and then you can be comfortable. We won't even treat you like a person. And
which is really strange, right? So there's something strikes me about this bearing children and getting multiple heirs. Lysair's going to live for a couple of 100 years still. Like, is this not common knowledge? is that not the thing? These kids aren't going to reach the throne ever.
I thought they were. I thought basically he was going to heir the son, and then I assumed the idea was that he would then give the kingship to the son, and then he would go off and do his own divine whatever, so that the kingdom would still have his bloodline and family running it, but then he'd be free not have none of the.
You can go have his midlife crisis,
yeah.
And you can get a sports car and leather jackets and
yeah.
Well, he's already got the inappropriate young woman, the 17-year-old, so he's already started on that journey. Yeah.
Oh, are we allowed to talk about the marriage now? Are we at that point?
Oh, the marriage, yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, I finally felt like maybe that there was a small bit of redemption for Lysair, and then he just stomped on it and threw it in the fire. I was just like, oh my god!
Like, oh wow! I thought I couldn't dislike you more.
I was so annoyed because he goes in there and has this whole like thing about drinking and the Talith and remembering her and being horribly upset, and then it's just the biggest knob you could ever be. And I was just like, I was so irked by that.
It's just like, oh yeah, no, I'm just like, I'm glad to just like, it was like, wow, this is uncomfortable to say the least. I'm like, well, now we've got another thing to add to the list of bad stuff, because it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna let's call it what it is. It's like, I'm just gonna rape her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how Lysair is still insisting upon this veneer of law and order. he like he says, like, no man in my kingdom stands accused without proof, even a common born craftsman. And that was when people started having suspicions about Clan Bridian. Um, and he was like, he was he wanted all the bad news held back before the wedding, so that he could, so the wedding could go through properly and without any bad news and stuff.
No, it was so that she wasn't, so that she could have a nice wedding day. It was written
Right,
like
yeah.
that. Like, he didn't want to spoil her day,
They can't
even
spoil
though
her
he
day, yeah.
clearly doesn't give a hoot about
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, but it's this regal or royal chivalry, about keeping up appearances. So if anybody
Yeah.
looks from the outside, I appear to be magnanimous and generous, etc. Whereas in private, get that brandy down your neck.
Yeah.
It was of all the things that Lysair's done, I think the way Janny wrote this is the one that gave me the most personal disgust for him. Like, out of everything that he's done in the whole thing, this was the one. Like, on a one-to-one basis, he has a very vulnerable young woman here who's been entrusted in his care, and he's just horrible.
Yeah, thank God for her. I don't know, what was it, her nurse or her
Yeah.
lady or something. I was like, yeah, if that I'd been more pissed off if that had not occurred. But I was like, absolutely.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the slap across the face, and
Yeah.
then, but what I also loved about the slap was it came up later that he had a mark. It wasn't just forgotten about. That was actually there at the end of the chapter, and that slap mark was still there.
Yeah. I think Lysair engages in a lot of is virtue signaling the right term? Every time he yells or like makes these sweeping statements about how under my rule there won't be any slaves, or we will not accuse anyone until after they are proven guilty, or we will make sure that the princess has a nice marriage. It's like he doesn't care. He's just signaling to people that he cares about these things, and they buy it. And meanwhile, he's off plotting how to use Main's defection to to start a war, start bloodshed, and then he's chaining clan slaves to boats, and uh, like basically not treating them as humans anymore. And all of that is fine because he said there won't be slavery. He said that we will not chain the innocents until they are proven guilty.
No, absolutely. But it's also the whole if he's doing it for the kingdom, then it doesn't matter. Like, if he's doing it for the cause, it doesn't matter. And it's like, as long as he gets what he needs from it, it's okay. Like, he's being incredibly selfish with the young lady, but he doesn't see it that way because like, he's hurt, so he has to do this, but he has to do it for the kingdom. So sod her, as long as she has an heir, she'll be comfortable for life. So what does it matter that he doesn't even say her name? It's just, his whole, he's a messed up guy.
And sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but it's nice to see that this young girl, even though she's presumed to be just a patsy, is actually not prepared to just be locked in a tower and just live life in comfort. Even though it was sort of suggested at the very start, we're introduced to her, that was going to be a role she knew about, signed up to, but actually given put in that place, no, she's like, no.
Yeah.
Not happening.
It helps that she knew what came before for Talit, but I mean, I'm curious to see if she wins through on this one. It has to be in a way that it's different from Talit, right? She can't be a naysayer to anything Lysair says, but she needs to become important, which I kind of suspect she will. Yeah, but I'm very curious to see where her character goes with.
No, I really am as well, because I think she knows what's expected of her. Like, she's not an idiot. And her whole family knows what's expected to her. But I loved that discussion she had with her mum, like you just said, about how, if you work out this, then you become his equal because for the kingdom or whatever. I thought, like, the third, and I think you're right. It won't be like Daleth, but it sounds like she'll just from reading between the lines, I guess, so far, that she'll know what her duty is, but then do it to a point where she's respected in it as her own right, I guess. But yeah, hopefully he won't walk all over her.
It's like she has to get influence through a different channel.
Yeah.
And it also appears unlikely that there will be an heir, because it doesn't seem like Lightyear only did it because of the duty to consummate the marriage. Like, outside of this, it seems to be the sexual relations are going to be the same place as he was with Talith, in which he just wouldn't go near. So the likelihood of an heir seems slim at this juncture of the story.
Yeah.
Only takes one time.
Her name is Elaine, by the way.
Yeah, Elaine and Allura. I did want to point that out as well. Like the two love interests will start with the same.
Pretty sure it's your Grace, isn't it?
How British of you.
So Arathon's reaction when he found out Talith died. This was the first he was hearing of Talith's death, right? Not how she died, just the fact that she did die. So that was just as we were expecting, I suppose.
Was that this chapter or earlier?
I think it was earlier in
maybe four, one of the subchapters of 4.
Yeah.
During the conversation with Perian, I believe.
Right.
It's like, I think he knew beforehand, but didn't know that she was deliberately killed.
Still makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nice to see that Lysair does mourn Talith in his own twisted way, but it's sadder that Arathon mourns her more. But I guess it's more that he's regretting his role in her death. But given how feisty she was, it's not like she was going to just sit down quietly and listen to everything Lysair says. She had the ability to apply logical reasoning. She would. I think sooner or later that split would have happened. I think the kidnapping by Arathon only made it go faster. What do you guys think? Do you think that would have happened eventually?
No, I definitely do, because she was an intelligent lady, so she could see the politics behind a lot of the stuff. So absolutely, I think she could see where he was going off this kind of crazy path where he was like, it's all that, when she could see what was actually happening, maybe it wasn't all Arathon. And she was intelligent and so forthright that she probably wouldn't have kept quiet about it, or at least try and have a conversation with him about it, was what she did, and it would have ended the same. So yeah, I fully agree. I think it was always inevitably not gonna work out.
Maybe he would have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you just sound like a Lysair apologist. I'm sorry. Get your t-shirt made.
Lysair apologist.
Yeah. Always in your grace, with a big picture of Lysair.
Was it one of the Brilliant brothers? I think it was Parian. Goes on about how he'd like to use the sun emblazoned shirts for target practice.
That's
that
right.
was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was so good. Big fan. A lot of humor in this book. Definitely, there definitely is. Definitely a lot more lighthearted moments in it.
So what do you?
No, go ahead.
No, okay. Oh, I was going to switch topics to talk about the brothers and how they how we think they might get out of this situation, because obviously at the moment the younger brother is Mern. I can't remember.
Yep, Mern.
Has just played a little bit fast and loose with a lot of things, and maybe got in trouble with that, with the shipyards and everything else. So, do we think that what was his name?
Arian?
Arian?
I'll get there in a minute. Parian is going to be able to get themselves out of trouble by handing in the shipwrights or something. Do you think he's going to be able to survive and not have to sacrifice his younger brother as well?
I think if he gives up his younger brother, they can use that as the excuse to say Bridians are against us, so let's start a clan war. It has to be only the shipwright. I think their family cannot be implicated in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't they take Catrick prisoner?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I was assuming that maybe what they're going to do is, say it was all a ploy to catch them and hand them back. So maybe that was how they were going to, we were actually crisscrossing and trying to get him. I don't know. But it's a difficult one to see how they're going to get out of that situation.
I sort of fear that what Parian thinks is going to happen is going to be undermined by the fact that Lysair knows more than what he thinks to do, because I think they killed all the messengers that got out. So he thinks we'll be able to say we weren't at the wedding because we were cleaning up this mess here, and here's the culprit. But I think Lysair will probably play this along for a while and see what else he can get it, and see if he can get a line the Arathon through them further on down the line. I think he's cute enough to do that, rather than just taking him and putting him on trial or something, which seems, not as clever.
Yeah.
Well, he is obsessed with public trials. Because he says even conspirators deserve a fair hearing.
That's right.
So if we fail to catch up with the Mayor's galleys before Alastron's state vessel is boarded, do you think there will be an accused man left alive to receive the grace of a public trial? So he's asking that of that rate guy, whatever that guy's name was.
Interesting.
But his counselors don't seem to think so.
No.
I'm kind of worried for Catrick. I think it was unfortunate to see after the promises that Mayan made him, and he brought up Tarek because he was whipped, and they're like, no, they'll do it differently this time. But then immediately, without an explanation, they capture Catrick. But they are, given how they treated them without an explanation, it's not, hey, we're on your side, but we need you to do this thing for us so that we don't start a clan war. It's, they just treat him like a criminal. So Catrick's bound to tell them, and Evel, the blind dude, they will tell during their hearing, assuming they get one, that Mayan and Parian were in on it, right? Like so how is that going to work out for them? So yeah, you're right. It's very tricky.
Yeah.
If they
It was
manage
sort
to
of
make this work.
sort of alluded to that when they put him in chains, that he then told them something about what he was going to do. So it does seem like Parian has a plan of sorts, rather than
Chibito's laughing. Oh no.
Evil grin.
You're evil.
He's going like
You
that.
won't have to wait long. That's
All right.
It's like when we're done here, start reading chapter 7. You will find out very quickly.
So Phelan and Fjark, speaking of light-hearted moments, I love that whole exchange between the two. I like how every exchange between them starts out with, oh, they're fighting, but ends with they know how to read each other, they know how to work each other's moods. They're really good together. I like that. I love how that whole scene went.
That's fun.
Yeah, I like that insult, mealy mouthed. It's funny.
And I like that the girl is the loudmouthed one and the boy is the gentle, delicate soul.
Yeah, but he talked her out of doing something foolish, possibly foolish. Yeah.
That's true. That is true. And And the Koreani do follow these two, right? They track them, so they could, if they wanted to. It doesn't seem like they do at the moment. Not, we don't have to worry about it for 15 years yet. Um, track Arathon's movements if they wanted. And it's a 15-year-long plan to capture him. That's it. That's all they they want to do at the end of that. They capture him.
I have a question about Arathon's plans as well. Is the whole plan for him just to go sailing again? Because I think I can't remember which book it was, but where he went off to that island and it wasn't there and the Peruvians weren't there. I thought at that point it being pretty much confirmed they're no longer on the world. They haven't just moved somewhere they can't be seen. They've left. But he seems to be going on a voyage to try and find them still. Is that, or have I misunderstood that entirely?
They know that the Pravians are somewhere, but because their presence still radiates on Ethera somewhere, according to the sorcerers, but they don't know where they are.
Mm.
And Cathter, the other continent, is like just a barren wasteland.
Yeah. Okay. I said I thought I took away that we because they said they weren't there, that they weren't anywhere, but understood. So actually are still somewhere. So he's going on a mission to go find them.
And they theorize that there may be blind spots in Sethvir's, omniscience, earth sense, that are deliberately put there. So they could be somewhere, and we have no idea. It could even be somewhere on the map, maybe.
Did Arathon go to that continent at the Fellowship's bidding, or did he just decide that that's where they're most likely to be?
He was directed there, if I remember what they covered in Fugitive Prince, at the prompting of the Fellowship, and they withheld that. He wasn't going to. They knew he wasn't going to find anything there. They just, sent him off on a wild goose chase to give themselves time.
Yeah, I think I remember Ascendare.
He was kind of pissed about that.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you need time. I mean, I could have been doing other stuff, not wasting 3 years.
3 years, yeah. But he was out of the way for Lyser. Couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah.
But what else? Did we talk about Lyser's? No, yeah, we already covered that. And
There's a lot of mention of Dakaron's black chariot. That curse gets brought up a lot. I wonder if we ever see anything like that.
Oh, they used a version of it in, was it Warhost?
The car, yeah.
Yeah, they spun a chariot
Right, yeah.
like that. But I mean, that was just an illusion. But
Yeah.
I am curious to see if we actually see any of these gods. Who else? The people who were affected by the tree illness resigned.
Yes.
Wholesale. Yeah. I think we covered everything. Was there any other subjects that we should talk about? No, that was an efficient discussion.
I will say this: enjoy the next 3 chapters, because they'll be nice and slow paced. After that, we're off. Here we go.
That's 6 chapters after that. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
No,
We'll
7,
get
8,
ready.
chapter 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Once
And
10,
then-
11, and 12 start, we're off to the races.
Nice.
Or as I've used before, it's like, you get through these and we'll be inching up the roller coaster and about to go down.
Okay.
Interesting. I wonder what this on the picture is. That lighthouse? I was gonna say light tower. What's wrong?
I think that's Althane.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's happening, sir. Okay.
Oh, and the yellow thing on top is the seal they have that Karadmon's watching.
Oh.
Probably not, but
I think best just read. I think.
Yeah.
Oh dear, big five, eh?
Mm-hmm. Right. So then let's do outros. Robin, would you like to start us off this time?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, Robin, you can find me at Bookends and Biscuits on YouTube. I am on Twitter or X as well, and I'm going to maybe read a chapter instead of going to bed. So,
Nice.
Jared.
Nice. You can find me on the Fantasy Thinker on YouTube. And I'm also on the page chewing forums and do a page chewing blog on pagechewing.com called Creative Crossroads. So check that out too. Chibipo.
You can find me on page chewing and on Twitter sometimes, and yeah. Chris, sure.
My name is Chris Moore. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, or you can find me on the Patreon forums. Watcha.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and you can find me on the Patreon forum as well, on my YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain. And join us again in 2 weeks' time to talk about chapters 7 through 9. And if you'd like to join us on these actual discussions or talk about the books with us on the forum, consider checking out the Patreon forum. We'll see everyone in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye.